Hello, this is Sacred Assumptions. This is the next episode in this session for those watching along. So, today for our topics is on March 16th. So, this is all data that we know is from March 16th. So, if we're behind, that's why. So the discussion I was wanting to talk to you about was the Iran war.
Mm-hmm.
What is your sort of thoughts so far?
I think in general it's good because that has been a very problematic area for a while. Specifically, the leaders, people who have been in charge over there they're basically terrorists. So it's in general, I think it's a good thing. That one of the things I've seen is that it could quickly turn ugly if you don't watch out for how they handle the situation. One of the things that has been said is that if they start to put a lot of ground troops over there, then it starts to become questionable of what exactly are we. How serious are we in trying to start a war? Because during that time is also where you're supposed to have which I think they technically did do that in a sense, but you're supposed to have the Senate vote on whether or not we can have a war. And I want to say I did see that they did vote on that in the Senate in a sense.
In a sense.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was more so like it was almost like the vote was like, yes, of course, we'll just go ahead and do this. It's just it wasn't like it wasn't actual like a
declaration of war.
Yeah, we weren't declaring war. We're just saying, yeah, sure, you're fine.
This is a military operation or special excursion.
Right.
Yeah. I will agree with the part that. The leadership there is not good.
Mm-hmm.
And that it did offer a lot for terrorist organizations. And
I think it's like a key aspect in it.
Yeah.
I think. That's
I believe for some people it is a key aspect. In some other areas it's not. But I'm going to go along with a bit of it being a key aspect for a little bit. Other times I'm going to go definitely not. It was a key aspect there.
Well, okay, what are you referring to?
That the leadership for terrorist organization to take out the leadership.
Oh, so you're saying that you don't necessarily think that a key reason for us to do it was because of terrorism or terrorism? Okay, that's not what I was referring to. I was more so referring to that they tend to be a key problem with terrorism, with how they aid in terrorism. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding. It's not like they're necessarily the main source, but they are one of the main sources. And so that's why I was saying it was probably good in general that we handled it the way we have so far because they've been a problem in that way. But I'm not so sure we did it specifically because of that. I think we did it for a few other reasons. I'm sure that was an aspect of it. Yeah. So. Yeah. I think part of what I had heard, what I came across was that we were trying to make a deal with them, but part of the deal involved that they must not have nuclear weapons. They were not willing to give that up. And so finally, I guess there was a situation that came about where because they just weren't willing to concede or weren't willing to give that up, because them having nuclear weapons, or at least the threat of it, I don't think necessarily that they actually had them, but there was a serious threat that they would have it soon. That they could have it soon. And they are constantly attempting to get it, attempting to build it. And part of the argument is that if they could do it, as soon as they could do it, there's really no question that they would use it. because of the hatred that they have for certain places like Israel and whatnot. And so, and because they were not willing to stop trying to do that. That I guess there was a situation that arose where all the leaders were together that the president found out about, so he decided to just bomb them. So that way he said, okay, we'll just eliminate this aspect of the problem because you're not willing to give this up, and this is an ongoing threat for us and the world and the rest of the world that they do not like, and so we don't need them constantly being this concern in this way.
Yeah, for it, I've heard the opposite of that. They were willing to not develop it, but there was concessions that they wanted from the U.S., which we would not accept.
I think what it was that they would pause it for a few years, essentially pause it until Trump was no longer in office, and Trump wanted to be to where they would never attempt to do it, and they would not agree to that. I think that was the distinction.
Yeah, I did hear about that, like, to develop, like, nuclear power plants and not develop for, like, any nuclear weapons for, like, 10 to 20 years. And they would have, like UN come in to monitor them.
Oh, because we can trust them.
I would go for that's a yes and a no thing.
They don't have a great track record. They do what they want to.
It's a double-sided track record. They're very good at the beginning, not very good for long term. Because it's one of those things of when it comes in, it's actually very good. They are obeying it because, like, it is close to the incident that happened. And then they become, at times, more ingrained into the system, not letting things slip by on both sides. I
tend to understand them that over the years, they've just become more of a nuisance. The UN. They lost their way.
I mean, for it, in certain ways, they are good in the areas that they are when they're, as it said, initially when they come in, they're good. But what happens is that they come in and then we don't talk about the situation after. You say, like, okay, the UN troops or investigators come in and they're supposed to uphold this part of the deal. And they're good for like say 5 years. And then once that's like done, people aren't discussing the next step. But the UN people are still there, and they're kind of, it ties things down because nobody's willing to fully discuss it. And the UN is just there to keep the status quo of what they were supposed to be doing. And so, if both sides are changing how they approach things, UN is still trying to keep things what it was in the past. But situations have changed.
So I guess that could be part of, like, whenever I've heard about how when situations do arise, sometimes you can't rely on them to handle it appropriately. It might be more that they have already had situations over there, and they had a certain protocol or certain policy they're standing by, and that when this new situation arises, they're not responding to that because they had this other policy that was in place.
Yeah, that they were supposed.
So the government.
Yeah, it was like a government sort of system that they're not fully flexible in certain areas. Because if they respond, it'd be like, "Oh, that's too political for you," or
Yep, typical government nonsense that causes things to become an issue.
But for where I've heard where it's just my thing of they were willing to, but as it is, there are certain things that we weren't willing to give up as well, or chose. And so in that situation, we had, you would say that there was a deal for it, but I would say, well, other people would say, like, America wasn't changing on their stance and Iran wasn't changing on their stance. And depending on whose side of the deal you are on, it would be, you would say the other side's not willing to negotiate or talk. And the other side would say the same thing. If you look at from both sides, from probably an outsider view, I'd say it's something that both sides were not willing to discuss, not willing to negotiate.
Okay, so part of the other thing I've understood is that the citizens there were very pleased with what the U.S. did.
I've heard mixed reviews.
That,
There are people who are very much of like, this is great, and then other people are like so calling death to America, like crowds of people. So
where is this?
Like Tehran?
Like Tehran?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where it is right now, it is a mixed response. So
I assume Tehran is in Iran?
yeah, Tehran's in Iran. It's the capital.
Okay, gotcha. I know the name sounds familiar. But,
That it is in a situation where this is really how you go about it is really going to determine if Iran in this situation is going to go for independence or going to go for more stronger anti-America stance. You've got the people you have in the situation. If you cause a lot of the people to suffer, it can be viewed upon America causing the suffering, not the Iran government.
Why is that?
Because they'll look at it and go, whose missiles are hitting me now? Is it Iran or is it America? If you look at like where exactly how you do the warfare, if you're like, well, that missile hit the military base, so they're really targeting military. They're really just attacking the government right here. They're attacking, but if you hit a school, they'll be like, they're just doing this indiscriminately. Like they're hurting us, the people. They're not here for actual change to give us freedoms. They just don't like us.
You're talking about people in Iran thinking that way about people from the U.S. or parts of Iran.
Part of Iran with the situation of the mixed response of they are praising what the U.S. has done and condemning what the U.S. has done. Of one's people going like death to America and those who are like, thank you for getting rid of our leader.
Right.
And so you have the situation where you have people who are in the middle of it, still trying to decide what's going on.
Because part of what I had heard, but before we even did this, that that they had protesters out there in Iran.
Yes, before we did anything.
Right, and there was like, I think tens of thousands.
Like one of the
maybe.
largest protests ever.
Right. And they were doing it for a while. Even it was even to the extent of the Iranian leaders went out and killed like a few thousand of them.
Yeah, there was a few thousand deaths of the protesters.
Right. But they still ended up doing it. And because of how much they just hated the leadership. And so because of that, because it was ongoing, that's whenever Trump decided to go ahead and bomb. Because one of the things he said, he told all the civilians, go inside while we bomb. And once we're done bombing, come out and you can come out and be prepared to fight for your freedom. It's like, it was one of the ways of saying, we're not going to be the ones taking over leadership. That's y'all's opportunity, but we're going to give you a fighting chance.
I've heard about that for a bit, but I've also heard of when the protests happened, he was making those things, and then for a bit he backed off.
So yeah, that's what I initially had heard was that it had to do with if the leadership killed any Iranian protesters, he would basically bomb or whatever. And they had killed him, and he did not initially do that. People were kind of surprised because he has, for the most part, it seems like he has went through with whenever he's threatened, he's gone through with the threat. And this was one of the few times where he threatened and he didn't go through with it, and so they were kind of confused by it and trying to figure out what was going on. And then it seemed like what was happening was that after they had killed thousands of the protesters, and he saw that the protesters were still willing to protest despite having lost lives, he saw that they had this spirit that was needed to actually fight the government as long as they had a chance. And so that's where that I think that's more of, it's not something he has said, that's just what some people who were watching the situation, that's how they were understanding it.
Interpreted it.
Yeah, how they were understanding it is that he saw that what was going on, and saw that since they were still continuing to do it, he said, okay, well, if they have that kind of heart to do it, then I'll go ahead and take out the leaders and give them a fighting chance to be able to actually take back their government, take back their nation.
Yeah. For it, I've not heard that, but I don't think the events of those protests quite line up with that, because he told them, the Iranian government, to stop doing that.
Stop what?
Like killing the protesters.
Yeah, he did. And
Iran did stop.
I had heard that it was still that they may have stopped at points, but they were still really just doing it, and that they. I thought what I had heard was that he warned them not to kill them, or else he would bomb. Yeah. And they did kill them, and then he did not bomb.
Yeah, for it, like the timeline of like they stopped killing the protesters.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. For the first one, I remember there being like a court case that they were going to do for a protester, like public execution, right. And they stopped that because of Trump, and then Trump told them to go protest, and that the U.S. has got their back. And
I see.
And that's when the part where that they were still killing protesters, because Trump encouraged the Iranian protesters to go forward because we've got your back.
And do you think that was a bad idea?
I think that was a bad idea if you're like saying right there, we've got your back, and then they do it, they get killed, and it didn't seem for it that it came. You could possibly make the argument now that it came.
Mm-hmm.
But it it seemed to
be delayed
right there, and people got killed because he was telling them to charge before they were ready to do anything.
Oh, you mean before the U.S. was ready to do anything?
Yeah.
I gotcha. I mean, that's possible. I didn't keep up with it enough to know those distinctions about it.
Yeah.
I had heard stuff, but I didn't know. I wasn't actually too familiar with the timeline of when things did and did not stop and stuff like that. I had heard about some of the stuff. I had heard about all that stuff you're talking about. I just didn't. I haven't didn't keep up with. Okay, when did each thing happen? The main thing I had heard was after he did bomb, you would see different video clips of people in the streets recording, praising him for, applauding, acting excited that the places were getting bombed because they were frustrated with the leaders and they couldn't do anything about it.
And for it, I cannot deny those cheerings.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that, like, I would say for any argument, you cannot deny it. But I would also go with that there's also people who are angry with the U.S. and Iran for their bombing in the streets as well, that are angry. So
so where did you see that?
So part of it was on YouTube, but one that I can remember was supposed to be a group where they're gathering together to have a rally with like an Iranian Anatoly, like the new leader and such. Well, that he was not going to be there, but it was going to be like a public speech, and Israel was like, "Hey, if you do this, we will like bomb that area."
Israel. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Israel's like, we will fire on that spot,
right?
And that has like the video of them like death to America.
Israel said that, or
no? The Iranians people are going death to America, and then they get the then Israel like launched missile strikes at that area.
Okay, so what it sounds like is that are you sure it was Iranian people or Iranian soldiers?
People.
Because what it sounds like is that they were fixing to bring about, because this is the other thing I'd heard, was that they had found a leader to replace the main leader, which I guess became a problem because of who the leader was going to be.
It's the son of the previous Ayatollah.
Which would be an issue.
Yeah.
And so, because he obviously would have he most likely has the same mentality,
he has the same one, which people go, it's more hardline than the...
Yeah, usually how that goes. And so, with that, you see that, it's like, okay, well, this just really screwed things up, in a sense. And so, if you have that situation where he's fixing to become the leader, and you have those people in that area saying death to America, I can see part of the reason why they would say that is because if he's fixing to be put as the leader and they protest that right there, then they're dead. And so I could see that they would do that to save face in that moment.
But save face, but also I would say put it into it. Otherwise, you don't show up. You just be like, I'm not going to be there. But if you're supportive,
you're assuming that it would work that way.
Yeah.
Over there, they might have to show up.
Yeah.
As a support. Because if you don't show up to show support, you might die for that.
Yeah.
Over there, I don't know. It's like it's a different world over there. So over here we could do that stuff. We could just like screw you. But over there, I'm not entirely sure how they handle because my understanding is that there's also been and these were not like official things that had happened, but there's also another thing where you had some people. I think over at the Olympics, they showed a video of. I think right after all the bombing and stuff like that had happened, that they actually had, I think there were like Iranian women who were in the Olympics who, whenever it came to, I think, playing their national anthem or something like that, they didn't respond to it. They kind of just stood there. And
was this for, you said, Iranian women's sports?
probably. I mean,
I was like, that's more of the sexist part right there. But
well,
they're not proud about their women's sports.
right. But what I was getting at was because when the national anthem played, the women didn't respond. They just kind of stood there. So they didn't show any pride or, I guess, singing along to it. It was a way of rebelling.
Yeah.
And so there was, I think, like, I don't know if it was a YouTuber or I think it was like a sports newscaster for that area saying because they didn't do that, because they didn't show support for it, when they come back, we need to make sure we kill them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. So stuff along those lines is like, okay, if you don't show support, it's not the whole thing of, okay, just don't show up. If you just don't even show up for it, that could be, that could be a clue right then there that, okay, we're just definitely going to kill you. Because, it was like, because that's another form of things that you wouldn't consider necessarily being rebellion, they consider rebellion.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's how it would work over there, but at least whenever they showed the whole Olympic thing and showed that, I was like, okay. Yeah. I believe that Trump, that something I had heard was that Trump had actually said, hey, because they're fixing to fly them back. And they're going to fly them back basically to their deaths. Yeah. And so Trump said, hey, I guess to the person who was flying them, or he was saying to someone who was kind of over there, he says, hey, you actually bring them over here, we'll give them a free pass, because if you send them over there, they will be killed. So you can actually bring it back. Now, whether or not that actually happened, I don't know. But
I have no idea.
But that was he was given them basically asylum because of rebelling against it. So, which is kind of an interesting thing, because here he's also been trying to get rid of a bunch of people, and now it's like, I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, it's like it's probably also a way of him showing support to them for being willing to protest that. So it's just one of those things where you're kind of feeling it out.
Like, I do have another thing that would probably be a discussion for another thing that I have to look more into, but that's for a different time. But this is for the Iran. But yeah, that's interesting for, like, give them asylum when I would say a lot of other people in immigration are seeking asylum.
Or being kicked out for having asylum, and they're like, okay, no, we're done with this.
Yeah.
So I did find that interesting, because I heard them cheer that. I was like, oh, that's great. I'm like, that's ironic.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame him, but I was like, that's ironic for all the basically crap he's getting for kicking people out who have asylum. He's like, oh yeah, bring him over for asylum. So like that, I was like, that's an interesting look.
Yeah. It seems hypocritical. Yeah. But also,
I don't know if it would be that it's hypocritical, or if it's that there's been people who have come who the asylum has been questionable, but with that it isn't questionable. It's like, okay, this is clearly what's happening over there. We know what's going to happen to you, so bring them over, because otherwise they will be killed, because this is how their government responds to this stuff. So I can see how there's a distinction there, whereas you are uncertain about people who have come here, who have claimed asylum, and it's like, is it actually necessary, or are you just deciding to come here for the heck of it, and you're utilizing asylum to do it? Whereas with this, it's actually like, okay, there's no question about what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, well, I think that's supposed to be where the courts come into. You're supposed to bring documentation with you for it.
I mean, I can see that being part of it.
Yeah. But, another part of the Iran war is the question of striking out the leader at the beginning of the war. You think that's a good idea to handle military operations, or start a war is to strike the leader first like that, with like a missile strike, or a elite squad team?
So you're asking if it's good to strike the leader, or if it's good to strike him the way we did strike him?
The way we did strike right there, the leader of a for a nation.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're saying that rather than use bombs, which is which is an obvious sign of war, instead use some sort of an elite team to go in and take care of the job?
Take care of the job or use a missile just at the beginning of the conflict, which you immediately do is strike the leader of the country.
Are you asking me if it's a good idea to strike the leader right away?
Yeah, like that.
What do you mean like that? That's what.
The part is that most of the times that we've had it with armed conflicts, we have normally gone for that we can't do assassination strikes.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do missile strikes. We don't send elite squad to take out the political leader, like the president or the king of a nation.
Mm-hmm.
We have it most times when there's war. You don't do that. You come in, you take out like the army and such first, and then you seize or the leader dies. And that once you've like secured everything else around, you've taken the country already,
mm-hmm.
and then you have the leader. Instead of this way of taking out the leader first.
Right. I mean, I don't see a problem with it unless you're saying that there's like this is another one of those things where we have laws that we just violated or something.
I don't know about laws, but I think it becomes a dangerous idea of how you fight wars.
Take out the leader?
Like that, an assassination strike. Like that.
I mean, I imagine that at times if someone had the opportunity to take out the leader, they would do that first. Yeah. You take out the person in charge and then try to almost cause chaos so that way they don't know what to do, and then it makes it easier to strike them next.
Yeah.
The soldiers.
But for it, the idea I'm trying to get at is if we're okay with doing that, it's okay. Then other countries are going to be like, I can just do this right away. And they'll be like, if I want to hurt the United States, what's going to stop them from thinking, like, I just got to do a strike to the U.S. president and it's practically over?
So my understanding is that Trump has actually already made policies for that. He's had it to where, because he had already foreseen that it's possible they would just attempt to kill him.
Yeah.
That he set up things with his administration that if they did kill him, that it would be an automatic thing to where they would just that the team would go after the people who killed him.
Yeah.
As a way of like safeguarding, like if you don't attempt to kill me, because if you do attempt to kill me, my guys will go after you for this and basically wipe you out.
I mean, I can understand that sort of idea, like that sort of response, but I'm more fearful of when people sort of make those sort of responses, say like we've made these sort of plans. Those are most of the time people who are going to hurt other things that are going to be for the country. So when Hitler was about to like lose the war, his contingency plan was to eliminate his political rivals and kill all those who like badmouthed him.
Okay.
He made those sort of plans. And when people, I fear, who make those sort of plans are normally the ones that are going to hurt other people that are supposed to be beneficial. So, trying to name like the German pastor Hendrik Hoffman, the person.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Yeah, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He like before Hitler died.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hitler made sure he died before Hitler died.
He made sure to kill Bonhoeffer before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the sort of thing that I fear could possibly happen, to be like, okay, we're just going to be like if this goes away, we have this thing in our system that we use, we're just going to destroy that because I don't want people to have it if I wasn't able to do anything with it.
I think I'm losing you with the whole Dietrich Bonhoeffer and
the plan is more of a self-destruct than a revenge.
For Hitler?
No, for the plans for Trump.
Okay. What did this have to do with? You brought up Dietrich Bonhoeffer as an example,
but that was the idea of like he's made contingency plans. Like if they take out Trump with assassination.
Okay, you're saying Hitler.
That was me just going on a tangent for that, but it's
not all connected.
It's not all connected.
Okay,
it's not all connected right there.
Okay,
that's for a discussion for a different time.
Okay,
this is more of the ideology of if you're able to take out leaders like that, and you've had everybody else being like, I'm not going to pull this trigger of, in a conflict, the first strike is going to be taking out the leader. Because it will have a domino effect.
A domino effect in what way?
That other countries will do it.
Take out the leader?
First in the strike.
Uh-huh.
This is how it's going to be. It's not like we're taking out military command outposts. We're taking out the leader of the country, which is supposed to be like the civilian leader. Or so
not necessarily. I mean, yes and no. He's both civilian and military leader.
Yeah, but it's the difference of like an active combatant. A general would be viewed as like an active combatant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the president or king would be viewed as a civilian leader at the same time, so that he's orchestrating things other than just the military.
Right.
So that idea that it's not the target for like a missile strike or assassination, because not viewed as an active combatant in a war.
I see. Well, but isn't he the one giving the go-ahead?
He's giving the go-ahead, but he's also... The idea is that he has a different role as well, that offers that you don't normally do the strike against, like the president or the king.
You are very much so in favor of gentlemanly warfare, aren't you?
I like gentlemanly warfare. This one is, I view it as a like nuclear missile. Like nobody's dropping a nuclear bomb, because the first person that does, everybody else is going to start dropping the bomb, the nuclear missile.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have it that you're willing to strike out another leader like this, if you don't like what's going on, then it's what's going to stop it from other leaders doing it.
I mean, I would say that nothing would stop them, but that's why you have to be clever in your tactics for not allowing that to happen to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of what generally the president or leader has the understanding that they can be taken out at any time. And they have to be prepared for how to handle that. and to suggest that because I have multiple roles, they won't just go after me. That's I would say more naive on the part of the leaders. That it would be more intelligent to attempt to go after them if you could. If you can't, okay, you go after someone who's like kind of like the next level, or someone who might be easier to target. But they're always trying to target. They're generally trying to target the main person in charge if they're trying to actually go after the country itself. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they were to. So what Trump wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me if they were actually they would try to go after the president of the United States. It would actually just be clever, smarter. It's like kind of attempting to cut off the head of the thing and make it more difficult for them to function properly.
I can see in the part for the function properly, but for it, what happens?
And they hate us, so I mean, why would
what
they?
What happens is you just have a bunch of dead leaders one after another.
Deadly or what?
You get dead leaders, but eventually you're just going to be like, what is a leader but a target?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the job you accept whenever you become the leader in those situations, that you could die from it. So I guess in that sense, I just don't really see. It would be weird if in Iran those guys didn't think that they would be the target. They would be.
Oh, I mean, I probably would expect that they probably think of themselves as a target. Probably didn't think of how well the missile strike was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, also I just wonder if international law is also on it. That's the part I do not know. Mm-hmm. I will admit I do not know about that part of the international law.
Right. I mean, at the same time, I have mixed feelings about international law, only in the sense of they're nice if you're willing to play by them, but if you're not, I mean, it's there, but it might be just, it could be considered a hindrance if not everyone's willing to play by it, and I think we're going to a point where not everyone's willing to play by it. And so, let's say that you decide you're still going to play by it, even though other people are not, that you're trying to deal with, and you're losing because they're not playing by that. What you do, complain that they're not going to do that? It's war. I mean, that's just.
Well, international laws, you can say a complaint, but it's also in the opinion of that if you can have people who are not in conflict look at it, it's kind of a way to say who's doing a morally right thing. It's kind of viewed as that of like, we're having a conflict here between these two nations. Mm-hmm. We've got some people who are obeying the international laws and others who aren't.
Right.
That's the sort of opinion of like, I'm this other third country that's over here, and they're asking for me to interact with them in different ways. Mm-hmm. Be like for trade or supplying needs of weapons and all. It's supposed to be, you can use international law as a basis of who's fighting like possibly a more morally just standing, and the people's opinions with it would be like, oh, we have a truth to look at. Mm-hmm. Using truth in a sense of there's a law that we will judge it by, mm-hmm. if something's good or bad. To be like, hey, that country is not following international law. Mm-hmm. I don't want to support that country. And for it, you have people, you might have not the backing that you thought you had from around. You might find other countries going like, we're not going to support you or do business with you because you're breaking international law.
Right.
So there might not be like the immediate consequences of it, of like, somebody's going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of puts in standings of, do I trust you? Do I think what you're doing as a country is morally right? And all. And I think we kind of see that a little bit possibly with what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz in that way.
With the what?
The Strait of Hormuz or Hormuz. I've got to figure out. Is it Homez or Hormez? Right there by Iran.
I don't think I heard about that.
Where they're practically Iran's attacking oil ships.
Attacking oil? Oh, I might have heard something about that.
Where our gas prices are going up so high.
Right, that's obvious. But but I think I had heard. I think I vaguely heard something about that. I don't think I heard a whole lot talk about that, but it could have just been that I hadn't paid attention since then. Well, yeah. When did that start happening?
Like about a week ago.
It's possible I just hadn't paid enough attention since then.
Yeah, where Iran's attacking tankers of like all different sorts of countries, mostly Arabic countries in the area.
Okay.
But certain countries, they're not attacking their oil tankers.
Okay.
And then the U.S. has recently asked for the other countries to support there. And they're all going, no.
Okay. Because of what's been going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They're like, this is not a war. We don't think this is a just war.
Okay.
So they're saying we're not going to help the U.S. here with tankers that our people are going like, this is allied people who are allied with the U.S. will be attacked. Well, like China's and like India's shipments of oil are not being stopped. Okay. So Iran's not attacking those ones.
Right, yeah. Well, they're buddies, aren't they?
What?
Aren't they like buddies?
That's where most of Iran's oil gets sold off to.
Yeah.
But it's also in the part right there that those are the countries that are kind of mostly strongly condemning the U.S. and the other places are viewed as strong U.S. allies.
Because I know China is not.
Yeah.
But you're talking about
it's being viewed that
is it Arabia or
like Saudi Arabia?
Okay, I gotcha.
Oil that it sells to like Europe and such right there.
Right. Okay.
But
so I guess my thoughts with that would be that one, you have to, and I don't know where Trump falls in this or not, but it'd be a question of, do you agree with the international law as being moral? And some do, obviously, but maybe not everyone thinks that thinks they agree with it. And so at that point, we have to figure out is, okay, you're obviously no longer going to see yourself as protected under the international law if you disagree with it and find it to be a hindrance to whatever you're trying to do. So now you have to get clever with, okay, what kind of tactics can I use? Now I'm not referring to necessarily military, but what kind of tactics can I use to persuade other countries to help me out if I'm now disregarding international law? And so you have to figure out how you would use economics and other stuff to be able to persuade and see if you can get around that, if that's how you intend to do things. That's my thought. That would be my thought on like if basically you're not going to be relying on international law, obviously, and if you choose not to, it kind of is what it is. Just because people can see it as moral, other people can see it as it doesn't mean you disagree with how it looks at how international law looks at things, and so you'd have to through that figure out how to just go about other ways of being able to persuade. without hopefully using military. But
Yeah,
you know, it's however they choose to. I mean, you don't want to say I'm going to shoot you. You hope that wouldn't happen, but hey, if you disregard international law, that might be what you choose to do.
Yeah, and that's practically where people go for, like, expect international law for smaller countries, but if your economic or military power is big enough, you're just like, I'm just going to ignore this.
Yeah.
Which most people will be like, this is, as always, if you're that size and big, you would always go that your international law hinders you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the power to take it, but international law declares that everybody's equal.
Right.
And so, of course, if you have something that you want to achieve and another country wants to achieve it, if there was no international law, the bigger country would normally seize it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the smaller country had no chance. But if international law would be like double check to see what's going on, who has the right. And when that happens, most people, the bigger person will most of the time cry foul the most. To say that it's, or not foul, but smaller countries will definitely call foul.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those ones where the bigger one will always say it's not fair most of the time.
Oh, that international law is not fair?
Yeah, to them.
Gotcha. Okay.
To them, because they're like, we do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But international law was going to be like, it's not about what you do, it's what the law says.
Right. At that point, it also becomes like, do you agree with it?
Yeah. And then that becomes...
Yeah, and so and that will generally. I mean, obviously, the reason why you would follow international law is that you just don't want to have trouble on your hands.
Yeah.
If you don't care, that's a different situation altogether. So then you have to figure out other things. But
yeah, and if
you're hoping people care,
you're hoping people care enough with international law that somebody will do like a sanction or something like that.
Right? Yeah.
And so most of the time, small infractions on it don't really matter until something big happens.
And then at that point, I mean, not specifically with that, but the other thing that I can see is like, say that you no longer care about international law. You feel like it's hindering you. And so other places will try to threaten you, or they're preparing to threaten you because you're not willing to follow it. That's where you have to figure out how you, if you dislike what it has to say, you're going to have to figure out ways to persuade them to just work with you. And I don't mean like, I mean, it could happen, but I don't really mean like militarily, but figure out some other ways to be able to persuade them to be like, are you really sure you want to do this? We could actually work it out this way.
Yeah.
And so that if you could do that, then that's usually how that, you get around that. And then they're like, you know what, we'll just ignore this. Yeah. So it may not be like how people want to live in the world because they want things to be as peaceful as possible. But once you have someone who just doesn't care, you have a new situation you have to deal with. Now, as far as I can tell, it seemed like Putin was, at least in the most recent times before Trump, he was someone who it seemed like he could care less about international law. And now it seems like Trump is probably starting to follow suit with that.
Yeah.
So.
I'll go with that. But I was thinking for international law is more of on the idea of confederacy than what we'd probably call like a union or probably like sort of like that. So before like the United States, it was a confederacy.
Yeah.
Like 49-year experiment to where the states' laws triumph over federal laws.
Mm-hmm.
And for it caused a whole lot of problems where you had states like Virginia and New York had more money and just would practically bully the other states into like for business and be like, oh, you're using Connecticut money? No, you got to use New York money because they had more economic power or laws and such, and be like, oh, you disobey this law in New York, I'm going to grab you and bring you over here. And so it didn't work so well when you have a bunch of individual sort of countries, which is probably where you're probably getting a lot of the issues of like countries aren't going to obey international law if it doesn't seem to fit them, where it also didn't seem to benefit the states during that time to obey the federal law because for the federal law had no backing behind it.
Right.
So international law is definitely more of a hindrance if there's nothing to back it up.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, that's generally where if you have enough people in agreeing to international law, and this one country is trying to work around it or essentially ignore it, then if you have enough countries that want to still want to impose it and comply with it, then that can at the very least look like, okay, so this guy has to just comply with it because all the other ones aren't willing to ignore it, and so it still has that force behind it, unless that one country is able to figure out how to persuade all of the other ones to ignore it.
Or is stronger than all the other ones.
Well, so my thought with that is, I mean, obviously that would be the case, but let's say that they aren't technically stronger, but they have figured out other ways to be able to, like maybe you have them to where they're almost like, let's say they're all equal in power, so that way that if they're all equal, then that one country can't outdo all the other ones, so they would have to figure out a different way to persuade them to agree with that stuff.
Yeah, I can see that because I'm thinking of the China's move with other countries to kind of go onto a different system than what the U.S.'s international law has built up, and is trying to get other countries to replace with what we have as international law.
China is?
Yeah.
Because I know that they were trying to... I had heard they were trying to replace the monetary system.
They are trying to replace the monetary system, but in the sense that it is... The monetary system of the U.S. is kind of like an international law that everybody...
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that all most of the countries rely on... the U.S.'s the U.S. dollar and doing stuff, and that's what China's trying to break. Yeah. And so I guess you could call that international law. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but that would make sense. That it's one of those things where economically you have a say so because you have a lot of money. Yeah. It's like everyone's willing to work with you because you got that money. So that's where other countries trying to outdo you, and like, how about you all use this money instead? Yeah. And we'll do this other stuff with you if you do this work with this money. Yeah. And so that's where the battles begin. It's like, how can you outwit the other person? Yeah. So, it seems like that's what China and the U.S. are trying to do, is trying to figure out how to overcome each other in that way.
Yeah. Who gets to say what international law is? Right,
and that was part of what else I've heard, is that with Trump, all the different places that he's attacked and the countries he's attacked, trying to mess with, that there's a lot of connection to how they're connected to China and him trying to weaken China. I'm not sure how.
I view it more as all those, practically the countries that have been for a while have given the U.S. the middle finger to the system, because you have Venezuela, you have Cuba, you have Iran. These countries have been the ones that have been largest ones that, if the U.S. tries to do anything, they're a big one of saying like, no, we're not going to obey the system.
From what I understand, that has more to do with the leaders than it does with the people, because the leaders don't care for how the U.S. does things. Obviously, they have a different way of doing things, but the people there in those different places, they have wanted the U.S. to, because they saw what we did with Afghanistan, that they're like, hey, can you bring, I mean, that may have happened before that.
Afghanistan might not be the best example.
No, but that's initially that's what they saw.
Well, yeah.
Not with like for instance how we left, but how we initially were trying to put democracy in there. Yeah. That they're like, hey, can you help us, with this whole thing? And it's like, that didn't work out so well before. Yeah. So, but like for instance, that's the other thing I found interesting is that more recently they've been like, hey, what if we were to try and take out the leader of Cuba and switch that around and fix that regime? And I'm like, I mean, I definitely get that they're a problem and that the regime itself is a problem in general. It's just interesting that we're also starting to, and I do understand that it would be helpful to the people there, the citizens, and it would be helpful to the U.S. if we were to fix that problem. It's just interesting that this keeps popping up. So,
I think for like the Cuba one, I don't know fully more of like the Venezuela one, but I think the Cuba one is more of U.S. caused.
So if anything, it'd be more like we have a problem we need to fix.
No, more of, we didn't like what was going there, so the U.S. Created a problem for itself there. One is that Cuba didn't want to go with the U.S., and so the U.S. has done a huge amount of embargo on it that it couldn't actually test the system. We crippled it before.
I thought that they had some sort of a what system was it?
You had like Castro's family still there,
right? But there was a specific system they were trying, like communism or something.
Yeah, they're trying to do communism, but for it, there have been some changes in it, but just because it's the system that we don't like in the U.S., we were like, we're going to do a blockade. You're not going to get oil, certain foods and such, and like not going to allow you to put into the main markets, but other people can come in. Like they can do limited business with other countries. The U.S. is mostly blocking them from doing business.
With us or with other countries?
The U.S. is blocking them from doing certain businesses with other countries. Some businesses still able to happen. Like Cuba can do some businesses with Canada. Because.
So when you say that they blocked them from doing business with some other countries, does that mean like that the U.S. has persuaded the other countries to not do business with them, or how exactly have they blocked it?
One is like persuading them not to do business with Cuba.
Okay.
And some stuff where we do say like certain shipments can't go to them. Mm-hmm. One is like oil. Right. And like Cuba's oil used to come from Venezuela. Because Venezuela was saying like we're not going to do what the U.S. says of like if there's a sanction. Mm-hmm. And all like on Russia, I'd be like, you can't sell oil to Russia. Venezuela's like, I can sell oil to Russia. I'm not under the U.S. Right. Well, Cuba was more willing to go out, but because we didn't like the system, we were like, no, you're not. We're going to persuade everybody else not to do it.
So do you think communism would have worked?
I think what you would probably have is closer to a communism that was like China, where they allowed more private sectors to exist.
So capitalism.
With communists with capitalism.
Mm-hmm. So not the communist aspect, but the capitalist aspect.
Yeah, but we didn't allow it.
Right.
To it because we didn't like them for what they've done, or because it's communist country right next to us.
Right.
And so they do business and such of Canada. Like the most popular tourist attraction for Canada is Cuba.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my understanding is that Cubans tend to be struggling a lot over in Cuba.
Oh, they are, because they don't get they're not like the U.S. like sanctions or blockades or don't do deals with Cuba.
Right. So do you think that the leader was actually trying to help in Cuba, or that he actually got greedy?
I think the leader got greedy, but I think like after the leader died, when the chance was to kind of open up the world to show them like what the world is differently, we're not doing such a good job.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily our problem. That's their problem in that sense. I mean, the new leader would have to show that they aren't wanting to do things that way. I mean, if we have a problem with them, having communism, we don't have to do business with them. Now, granted, now when it comes to say other countries, it's one thing, I guess, if you can persuade them in some way to be able to not do business. But overall, it's just like, I mean, if we don't want to do business with them because of that, it's not like, I wouldn't say shame on us. It's just like, okay, we disagree with you running a country that way. We don't have to do business with you. I don't know what to really think of the whole thing of persuading other countries not to do business with them, aside from the fact that I guess you're trying to have it fail.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing where you have the idea that you can say the part that you don't want to do business with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that see the system fail is the other part, that because you decided to make sure that they can't succeed, is a different argument. Is the argument more of there? Is that you say it's failed, but you also made sure that it failed, and so you're not letting it actually test out.
Well, I guess it's an odd thing to say you didn't let it test out, because it's not like it hasn't been tested out before. Not there, but just in general. Because my understanding is that it has been tested out and has been proven to not work.
That hasn't worked. But the idea is that, okay, you give it a chance to actually change. It doesn't have like the power of like the Soviet Union or China, but you could see about it being like, okay, here's how it works. If it interacts with the world in general? Because other people would say the same thing for Taiwan, that had a dictator for a bit, and now we see it's like a democracy. We allowed it to flourish, despite
we've got preferences.
What?
We've got preferences.
Yeah, we have preferences. We didn't allow possibly Cuba to actually flourish. You've actively hindered it. And then claim it didn't work because we went actively against it, where we had other countries that were not the same, but in a similar boat. We chose to actually support them because Cuba decided to support the Soviet Union in the 50s and 60s.
And so that was our way of punishing them. I mean, along those lines, I would say I don't blame us. Don't blame it for that being the case. I mean, Soviet Union did some screwed up stuff, so and to support that would be it would suggest a country supporting evil because of how the Soviet handled things. So I wouldn't see it as like, okay, I don't blame you for being like, you actually agreed with this. Okay, we'll just stop doing business with you. Yeah. Now, I mean, I guess I guess that the thing might have more to do with, whether or not we want to do business with them. That's up to us. It becomes more of a question of, does that mean that we should persuade other countries to not do business with them? Not really necessarily what to think of that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you could say it's none of our business. Unless I could see it also being like, we just, because of how much of a distaste we had for that stuff because of different stuff that had happened, I could see us also trying to be like, well, okay, we definitely don't like that you supported that. And we don't want any of our allies to have any business dealings with that. I could see that also being an influence in that because of how bad we saw that whole situation. So I'm not surprised that we also got other countries to basically strong arm them in different ways to be like, hey, no, don't support this because of how bad it was. If you do support this, that says something about y'all because of what we already witnessed of how this thing worked out. Yeah. So I can see that as well.
Yeah. I was just thinking we also haven't given it the chance to actually for the people to possibly change it. But because for the Soviet Union's gone, so they don't have that backing right there, and so now they're left with like, who will back us? And practically, what they have is would be like Venezuela to back them up.
Right.
So we're just like, okay, the Soviet Union's gone, and so we're Cuba has to look for support in the world, where we could have been the place to do the support, to be like, hey, start playing by the rules of the international law. Instead, they're going, the only people that are interested in them are the people that aren't in the international law. So practically, in the chance that you have somebody who can possibly, with the Soviet Union falling, the chance for them to actually start playing by the law that they're now, you didn't give them the opportunity to play. And so if you're not willing to allow them to play, they're going to play with the people that are willing to play with them.
Right, yeah. How long has this situation been going on?
Like the 50s and 60s.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not like it hasn't truly been going on for a long time. It's been...
You would say, for it with the 50s and 60s with the Soviet Union, but for them to keep certain sanctions on after the Soviet Union fell, you're like, that part right there, where they're not able to fully integrate into the world market.
Right. So I guess part of what I'm saying is you said we didn't give them a chance to do anything, but it's only been a lifetime. It's not like it's been a few hundred years that we've been dealing with this. It's only been 70. So honestly, what it sounds like is if we're looking to attempt to help them out now, that is actually I would say that it looks like we actually held out for in a sense, an appropriate amount of time, because 75
Yeah.
years is not actually that bad compared to, it was like, we've been, not messing with them for a few hundred years and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I mean, the person's not going to be alive that long.
Yeah.
So, and I don't recall when Castro died.
I think it was like the 2000s.
Okay, right. And so I could see it being a type of thing where it's like, okay, it's only been like 70-ish years. So it's like, okay, we gave it that time, and now we're going to try and help out with the situation and whatnot, and help out with the situation that apparently we helped to cause.
Yeah.
So I guess in the end, actually, it's like it hasn't been long enough for it to be a thing to say, why did you allow it to happen so long? It's like, it actually hasn't happened that long. It's been a person's lifetime, which is not really that long in comparison to how long things can last.
I was just thinking 70 years compared to the U.S. is about to be 250.
Yeah.
So that's like...
We're a baby.
Yeah, baby. That's like a quarter of our life you've been having this issue.
Yeah.
With that, I think we should probably end it.
All right.
So, for those watching, thank you for watching along. If you could, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want us to discuss anything else. With that, thank you for watching.